Gentlemen, this is as perfect a day as you will ever see at the ice. Hi, Diane. But it's windy, so bear with me with the wind. Shalom. Hi, Sue. Robert. Bonjour. Hi, John. Nice to see everyone. I've been waffling. Hi, Trisha. Nice to see you. I have been waffling where I was going to take you today. Oh, Lynn, it's so good to have you back. Have a big hug because I know your chat was cut off. Helen, good morning. Helen, are your students here or is it just you, Jeff? Syrup one time. Just you. Hey, Trisha, how's your weather down there? It's I am so happy to bring you here today, ladies and gentlemen. And as you know, I try and do a different route all the time. Abe. So, and I seem to be signed on. I've got full reception. The world's coming together. And again, every time I come and do the ice fields with all of you, I try and do a bit of a different walk. But it's so much fun. Hey, Chloe. Yeah, turning into spring. The pictures, well, look at that blue sky. This is just, like I was saying yesterday, thank you everyone who joined me, of course, at the village of Lake Louise. Bonjour, Léon. You know, because I have a lovely, lovely group. I had dinner last night with good friends. I'm in a pretty darn good mood. It's beautiful weather, and I'm staying in Jasper tonight. So, well, thank you, Hayden. So, ladies and gentlemen, very quick hello to everyone. If by chance you haven't met me before, I am Patrick Toomey, and I am in I am in Jasper National Park here. The park boundary with Banff is about 4 kilometers just south of here. It's going to be windy, but it's going to be worth it. Let's just stop here for a little reveal, and then we can do more chit-chatting. Shall we, everyone? Ready? Boom. So I really don't need a jacket on. Hi, Anna-Marie. I really don't need a jacket on, but I brought it so I could pull my hood up to cover from the wind. So may I just ask, how is the sound, everyone? Are you hearing me okay? I've just pulled the hood up over my head here. Great. So it's honestly, you don't really need me today. You just need my arm and my camera. But I have a lot to tell you as always. But nevertheless, even if the sound is choppy from the wind, you could not ask for a better day here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, Diane. Oh, hi, Diane H. Your husband, well, listen, Diane. Diane, I'd like to give you we all want to give you a big virtual hug. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. We have all, I had lunch the other day in Banff with a friend whose father had just had, was assisted in passing. So Diane, I know this is an extremely difficult time for you and your family. So a big warm hug. I know more than anyone else can help with this, but I did remember saying to my buddy, because I lost my dad 2 years ago, but losing your husband, he's going to be in your memories and your dreams. He's going to be spending so much time in around you. So, so big hugs to you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And let's just talk about something kind of eternal out here, because there has been ice down that valley for over 3 million years. Hi, Michelle. So hugs to everyone. Hi, Laura. Yes, you good person to empathize. Well, it's lovely to share this with everyone. It is so beautiful. That is the Athabasca Glacier that we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. That is about 6 kilometers long. Now, the glacier is one of the 6 tongues or glaciers that flow off of the Columbia Icefields. Now, last time I did one of these tours, I went right up to the toe. But because today was such a perfect blue sky day, I thought I would stand back here to give you some broader perspectives. Hi, Lorraine. Thanks, Michelle. But looking up there, so the Columbia Icefields, the ratio we always give to everyone is basically you could take the city of Vancouver and drop it into the middle of the ice fields. Then there are six different glaciers that flow off of it. Um, and I can show, it didn't see one today, but I just put in a picture. There's a black bear. Last time I was driving up here, I've been having such perfect weather, but I haven't seen a bear for my group yet today. But it's pretty spectacular. Now, let's just curve around up here to Mount Athabasca. Look at that. Now, that's the one glacier I've climbed up here. By the way, hi, Jay. I see people joining on. Look at the reflection off there. That's what you want to see with the glacier. Today on our way up, I saw the Bow Glacier, of course, because it's a perfect blue sky day. But boy, the Bow Glacier, which is the headwaters of Bow Lake, which of course is the source of the Bow River, flows 4,800 kilometers out into the Hudson's Bay. But that glacier is looking very, very dirty. It's not from pollution. It's just that it's melting quickly. But when you see it super light like this, then you know it's still quite a healthy glacier. This is a good old climb. Hi, Joanne. Have a look at that up there. So this one, when we climb it, you leave really, really early in the morning, and you can see where people have made their way up. Thanks, Allison. And you climb up and you carry an ice pick with you. And I did do it too. I think I did two where I carried my ice pick and you're able to see it a little bit. You climb up and you get up into the big ridge. But wherever you see those lines through the middle, that's where you have to be very careful from crevices or crevasses. Hello, Lexi. And then you come down where it's softening up. And as you come down, you carry the ice axe under your arm for if you slip and fall, you create a stop for yourself in a red. But that is a spectacular mountain. By the way, it is, of course, not howling. It's very windy, but it's almost always windy here. This little pond here is thusly named Ripple Pond. Seems appropriate because there's almost always ripples in it. And we curve around, I just want to share with you a little Takara. Takara, of course, an Assiniboine word meaning light glistening on water. Hi, Isla. Lovely to see everyone joining in. And we're all having the temperature, Mary Lou. I couldn't tell you exactly because I never know, but I can tell you, Mary Lou. So I'm in shorts, of course, and really, I'm happy as a clam just in a t-shirt. I've only put this on because of the wind and sound. So that's how warm it is. I have got a mineral sunscreen on my face. And of course, I'm doing my tour with my very good friend Richard, who's the driver on my tour, but he's a genuine old friend of mine. And we sprayed on some more sunscreen because we're high up and it's so sharp. So hi, Herlendo. So I would say, if there were no wind, I would say it's probably solidly 22, 23 degrees Celsius. With the wind, it's a little bit cooler, but it's more that it can more of a burn. But we're looking down towards Sunwap to pass down here in the distance. But that's because the Athabasca Glacier is the origin of the Sunwapta River. The Sunwapta River, it is, Mary Lou, and it's bone dry, as you know. I mean, good Alberta. This is that ethereal Alberta blue sky. But it's going to get windy as I curve around, but I have a lot I need to show you over here. So down where those vehicles are driving down the hill, and you hike into the toe of the glacier, that's where I was last time I was here. That's where little Sunwapta Lake is, which is very, very milky in color because it's pure glacial melt. That flows up this valley in the distance here. It is so gorgeous. And it flows up the valley here, and it eventually, Sunwapta Falls, Diana, are about a half-hour drive from here. And those falls actually were carved out, not by the last Wisconsin Ice Age, but the previous one. Then from there, it's about 20 minutes more to Athabasca Falls. I'll be taking my group from here to Athabasca Falls. And then I'm going to take them and put them in rafts, and they're going to float their way up to Jasper. So they're having just a trip of their lifetimes. And what's so wonderful is they're appreciating every moment of it. So it's lovely. So there you can see, this is where the bus park is. There's one of the flags moving. Normally it's not blowing due south here so much, but it's usually blowing more away. But this is coming down from the north, but it's warm, warm weather. They're talking about a couple of days of rain maybe next week, which we'll need by then. But I tell you, when you have these blue sky September days, those are nutcrackers. Did you see them? That bird, two of them just flown over me. So we have gray jays and Clark nutcrackers. They look very similar, but that's a nutcracker, and I can tell because of the length of its beak. And it goes down, and they eat the seeds of the white park pine. So they're gorgeous little birds, and they're around showing off at the moment. So let's wander around and have a bit more of a view. But have a look at that forest out in front of us. You see that forest? So that is surrounded by lateral moraine. So the big cliff faces you see up there, that is debris and dirt, but that has still got ice underneath it. It's a little hard to believe at first, but trust me, it's there. When I am closer to the toe, Danny is beautiful, isn't it? But when I'm close to the toe, I can show you some of the exposed ice. But basically, these glaciers that I have ebbed and flowed for about 3.5 million years here from different ice ages. Now, the retreat at the moment of the Athabasca Glacier is massive. Sorry, I'm pulling my hood over again just to keep the sound a bit more sheltered. But you could imagine that even, well, 100 years ago, there was about twice as much ice there as there is today. That's compressed all of the sand to either side. There's ice in there, but that forest that we see out in the distance here, the average age of those trees is about 650 or 700 years. But its growing period is only about 28 days a year. And already this morning in Lake Louise, I think it was 4 degrees Celsius. So up here was probably freezing. So their growing season has just about, nice motorhomes, no kidding. And look at some of the bushes already changing color. It's the only row. We don't have maples here, of course, but this is the one bit of red we get, and these little low shrubs, and they are so gorgeous. See, Anu, namaste. So the colors out here are dancing around. We've lost most of our wildflowers, of course, but we do have lots and lots of berries around. These are buffalo berries. Bears like to eat them. Joanne, it's not that there's more ice in winter, it's that there's more snow. So defining a glacier is very easy. A glacier is simply permanent snow. But what we're having here, it takes roughly a ratio of 3 meters or 9 feet of snow to make 2 centimeters or an inch of glacial ice. Now it packs in on itself. It packs in so deeply. And again, when you're looking up, that is a kilometer deep, that ice up there, 1,000 meters deep, right? 0.6 of a mile deep of ice. The very bottom that's against the rock has been pulverized so deeply that really it's compressed so dense. The only color that refracts out is a turquoise color, but that's what grinds up the rock. Now I'm seeing some of the chat here. You know, Diane, you're seeing some of the trees change. They change for 2 reasons, and I remember this down in Zion when I was there, and it was so hot as well. That they will seed or change leaves when they're or flowers, say cactuses down in those areas, when they're healthy, but also when they're extremely stressed. Now, some people feel like we're going to have a big winter this coming year, but you know, we had a very, very cold December this last year, but then we had a ridiculously warm February. So, you know, the old sort of sayings that we had, like one of them is always when you see the squirrels being super hyper, it means there's going to be a big winter. I don't think those measures are as good as they used to be. And that's right. And we had exactly, Helen, we had no snow this August, and we did last year. Like we made it to September. Happy September, everyone. But yes, no snow fell out of the sky in August. So most years we have it fall out all 12 months of the year. Now, if I do curve around though, there's Mount Alberta, but up in the distance is Mount Snow Dome. Mount Snow Dome. Well, exactly, Lorraine. Yep. And Lorraine's just saying that, yeah, they're losing the leaves because of lack of water, not because of winter coming. But Mount Snow Dome is a tri-continental divide. I love this because water is, of course, the elixir of life on our planet, and the continent of Turtle Island, which many of you happen to know as North America, is, of course, the wettest of all the continents in a meaningful way. And if that snow melts on top there, it can go in 3 directions. It can flow up to the Arctic Ocean, out west to the Pacific Ocean, or to the Hudson's Bay, ergo the Atlantic Ocean. Hey, thanks, Patty. Nice to see you there. So that's what we're looking at all through this area. The shrubs, I was moving myself down into the bushes, but I'm actually going to make my way around and go back up because they're just so prickly at the moment. I thought the water was low enough that I could walk just along the bank of the lake here, but I think I'll end up getting my feet so wet. What is interesting is normally here I see ducks coming through, and there aren't any at the moment. And we even have geese come through here in this marshland, but you see it's just marshy down there. It is, Joanne, lovely to see it from this angle. or from this angel, I suppose. But the Columbia Icefields, of course, do straddle the continental divide. They create their own weather. They create their own wind. Diane, I totally agree that Takara, that sort of shimmering of water, and there is up in Jasper where I'm heading today, of course, Takara Lodge, um, and that, of course, is that term for light glistening on water. Now, Wilcox Pass up here in the back, and indeed there is a little bit of snow up in the pass there. See, that's still up there. I came up around Parker Ridge. Parker Ridge is a place that we backcountry ski. Tiny bit of snow there. But where the visitor center is up here, this was the terminal moraine. This is how far the glacier reached at its point. There was a surge about 130 years ago. Since then, 150 years ago, excuse me. And since then, the glacier has been shrinking. Now I'm on the Icefields Parkway, of course, Highway 93 North. Now, this is an incredible road. It was built as a make-work project in the 1930s, and it was a one-way track in those days. But it's a fabulous drive, and why it's a unique drive, why it's so much different from a lot of other drives is, generally speaking, road, trains, and everything, thanks Lorraine, follow river valleys. This one goes up and over 5. So I slept last night in Lake Louise, not up in the lake, but in the village. And then I drove up the Bow River to the headwaters, which is of course at Bow Summit, Bow Lake. I went up to Bow Summit and looked over at Pito Lake, and we were the first ones there. It was quiet as can be for my group. I made them get up pretty early, but it was in their benefit. Then we drove down the Messiah River Valley, through from Pito Lake down into Waterfowl Lakes, and down into the North Saskatchewan Valley. The Saskatchewan Glacier was clear as a bell today. It's about a 20-minute drive south of here. Now we come up here, and we're in the Columbia Icefields, and then you lead up to the Sunwapta River system, and then to the mighty Athabasca. The Athabasca eventually finds its way all the way in to the Mackenzie system that empties out in that huge delta up by Inuvik, Northwest Territories, and Tuktoyaktuk. I was really happy for my group. I never go out on these tours anymore, and I very intentionally don't, because they have guides who give these tours out on the ice fields, and I find if I go, my groups always direct their questions to me, and I don't want to steal their thunder. But the woman who was giving the tour today is actually from Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, which is a pretty cool thing. And of course, up in the territories there, you always know you're in the territories because their license plates are the shape of polar bears. So pretty neat place up there. That is for us. From here, it's about a 13-hour drive to get up there to Yellowknife. Oh, no, probably even longer, probably 15 or 16 hours. And about 20, 25 hours or so to get all the way up to Whitehorse and Yukon. So Yukon is mountainous, but Northwest Territories is not. It's the northern end of the Canadian Shield. And the Territories, of course, is where you have all of the diamond mining up there at Nunavut. Now, the last remnants of some of the little mountain flowers that wedge themselves in through here is just so gorgeous. And then, of course, some of the bushes just coming out in some flaming red. Let's see if we can be a bit artsy with a photo here. Over the postcard. Look at that, everyone. It's that's exactly right there, Sandy. Have a look. Look at that. You just can't make this stuff up. So such a treat to share this. And now there's a big fly who's trying to hang out on my camera. Oh well. It's free protein. So the glaciation, say over 3 million years, there has been no, Diane, no, it's not. Those are just other little shrubs that are changing color. The paintbrush is pretty much gone. Well, it is gone. I saw a tiny bit up towards Takaka the other day. Just happy accidents. I love that expression. But here we can talk about, right there, I've just embedded a conversation of the katabatic winds. Well, you know, I can tell you that the paintbrush is the most popular of the flowers for the bears to eat, because I've watched so many bears this year skipping other flowers and eating the paintbrush. So they clearly like the taste of that. But it is fun to see. Teddy, you're asking how hot it gets here? Not very. Now, this is probably one of the warmest days of the year. As I say, I'm in shorts. I'm wearing my wind jacket, not because I need it, just because I can pull the hood up for sound. At night, it drops, this time of year, drops to freezing. Check all this out. By the way, I just want to talk about rocks for a minute. That's all the quartz that is wedged in here. That's the hardest rock we have in the Canadian Rockies with virtually no granite at all. There's a tiny bit. It's not true that there's none, but they're in very specific places. But this is all the quartz and the limestone as it rolls over, dragged down and ground up by the glaciers. So we can go up and see some of that effect. As you get closer to the glacier, of course, the growth rate is newer or younger because the glacier's been retreating now for, well, a couple of hundred years. And you gradually see that lichen start up, then the crypto-organic soil, and then eventually you see a few little plants and trees start to take hold. I think I have found on one of our tours together the closest tree to the ice fields. But in terms of temperature, yeah, you're about freezing in the morning. It could snow here any time of year. This bus that's coming down just dropped people up to go on the snow coaches. And I'll get a bit closer and I'll zoom in so you can see what the snow coaches look like. But for the moment, it's just fun to show this glistening water here. Do you know, Diane, it really is majestic. And you know, I do, as you know, I come here a lot. Now, I was down at sea level in Ireland 2 weeks ago, or, you know, and now I'm back up high. And of course, last night I slept in the village of Lake Louise, the highest permanent community in Canada. Yeah, the snow coaches are massive. So yeah, I think, Tanya, it's probably somewhere around 22, 23 degrees Celsius right now. So it's warm. It's kind of perfect warm, I think. Now, Alberta is, of course, famously dry anyway, and the katabatic winds dry everything out. The driest places on planet Earth are not the deserts. Well, they are deserts by definition, but the Atacama Desert is probably the driest desert in the world, but actually there's drier valleys down in Antarctica, and that's because the katabatic winds stop any moisture from ever settling in. Oh, the dry is it's a totally different effect, right? So this road heads up. I'm going to try and walk up on the ridge and give you some views out in the distance. It's lovely to have everyone joining on. Again, those of you who are just joining, we are out at the Columbia Icefields in Jasper National Park. Jasper is the largest of the 4 contiguous parks here in the Canadian Rockies. Jasper is about 9,000 square kilometers. I guess that's about 5,500 square miles. And you see this little box over here? This is when you're heading out. Hi, Alan. If you're going to go climbing, you can leave a note to say it's a voluntary sign-in right there for rescue purposes. Thanks, Margaret. So maybe I should sign in and say, hey, I'm going climbing with all of you today, and then I'll get lost. No. Do you know part of our park fees, though, do cover rescue? There has been a bit of a debate about when people do really silly things, like try and walk up a glacier without any equipment and have to get rescued. Should they be billed for that? Allison, where are you here? So in 1992, now Allison, let me try and show you something, actually. Tell you what, I'm going to go a different way just because you were here in 92. I want to give you a sense of how much it's actually eroding, because it is, of course, retreating at a super, super high rate at the moment. In 100 years, it's lost about 50% of its mass. Now, glaciers do ebb and flow, but we have to be very honest. I mean, this is an absolute indicator of climate change, and it's because you can core into glaciers. And because you core into them, you go down, like you see Krakatoa, right? You can see the eruptions that spread around the world, but you start to see in about the 1840s, the start of the Industrial Revolution. Look at that gorgeous van with high clearance. Everyone. Hey, keep that in mind. But what did Patty say? Sorry, I just missed that. Did Patty, you actually had to be rescued in Jasper? Did you really? It's that's the next one. There you go. Now it's super windy down here. Tread lightly, glacier eggs. But now I'm sort of giving you a sense. So terminates up. Oh, did you, Patty? Well, you see, and you did get. So another story, actually, Patty. That's very interesting, because another story is I had some people on a winter tour walk up Buffalo Mountain, right? Banff, easy walk. They're fit people. But the lady and a couple slipped and she broke her ankle, and they sent a helicopter up to get her, right? So it was part of it, and it's good. So the glacier was here in 1890. Now, when I do other tours and I get right up to the edge of the toe, you suddenly see how in just the last 20 years or so, it's been retreating at a very fast rate. So we had a good snowy winter. I think the glaciers maybe put on some mass this year. We haven't had a lot of forest fires, Brenda. But we're now in September, and when I get into Jasper today this afternoon, it's going to be like 32 degrees Celsius, 87, 88. That is hotter than it should be. Our normals for this time of year, in Banff anyway, should be 4 degrees in the morning and 18 in the afternoon. So call that 40 and 65 or something, right? Hey, Dave. Now, it's been cool overnight. So the fact that we're having a little bit of a later heat wave isn't in and of itself indicative of something, but we've all been watching all of these big changes. So terrifying but beautiful. You know, Tanya, part of the reason when you watch people doing shows of climbing on glaciers, they're carrying ladders. That's not for going up. That's for going over the crevasses. Let me come and scan in here because off of the ice fields, that is where the glacier is pouring down into the valley. So glaciers are continuously flowing with gravity, obviously much, much slower than rivers are. And as they bend over, they open up these crevasses. And then, of course, really we're in the height of our warm season. Thanks, Ruth. Shout out to that. And so all the snow is melted off. Many of you know within a few weeks, this will all be white around here again. Well, then if you're on the glacier, you cannot see where a crevasse is. Now, I did just want to scan out. Sorry, it's so windy, I know it's causing the screen to shake. But that's where they drive people out there, right? That's where they're out in the snow coaches. So they drive down, stop out there, and I always tell my groups to take a bottle of water with themselves, or an empty bottle, because there's some water flowing around. Hey, thank you. Saw that someone sponsored. There's water flowing around on the outside of it. You can fill it up. Now, if you're a little worried about the purity of the water for drinking, the way to purify it's with Canadian whiskey. So you just pour in, usually a ratio of 50-50, you drink it and you're fine. So, yeah, it's just an idea. And having, Paula, you know all about Canadian whiskey. But no, you can drink it, and of course you get some natural mineralization. But you can't use that foreign whiskey, right? It's got to be Canadian whiskey. So, but it is fun. I drink out of the rivers, as you know, and people tell you not to. If there's a fast flow to it, I'm not worried about drinking out of it. It's standing water, still water, and that's because of animal refuse. Now let's just come back to the little less academic and just simply the more beautiful, as you see all of the hills. Tanya, I know to poaching. Oh, that's deadly stuff. The miners in Potosi in Bolivia, on their Sundays, they drink this 96% alcohol. I think that would kill me. But look at the lovely red that's just dancing around out here. Yeah. I have been, thanks, Anna Marie. So since I got home from Ireland on the 19th, I have not eaten any meat. Now, I have, and I went dry totally, but then I had some beers because I'm catching up with friends everywhere here. So, but I'm still Ruth, I hope you put up a heart when I tell you about the steak I eat too. Oh, but look at the light there. This is what I just find so magical here. And Michelle, you know, we were talking about Switzerland just on the bus the other day about him, and I almost wanted to send you a message. In Switzerland, are you down to 4 glaciers? Does that sound right to you? Because I was trying to get, you know, I haven't had a trip to Switzerland in several years now. Obviously, you can imagine, I love traveling to Switzerland because I'm a mountain kid. Yeah, it is 4, right? Okay, thank you. And what they're doing in, legality, Joanne, rules are meant to be, Anna Maria, I do notice the difference. I notice I'm hungry. Oh, no, I'm just having like a bit of just being healthy. Okay, and let me answer that question because it's a very good one. But yeah, you know, I was just saying about Switzerland. When I lived over in Europe, I would take my own trips to Switzerland because it felt like home. Although the Swiss valleys tend to be tighter than our valleys because the glacial valleys here are so wide, and this sort of proves the point, right? They have a lot more river valleys. Now, in Banff, we average just about 2 meters of snow. The Lake Louise area gets up to about 2.5 meters of snow. Up on this area, so it is accessible in winter, but it's a different concept because the glacier itself is going over the continental divide. And so the other side is the British Columbia side. And so the other side of that ice field, and literally that's pretty much the border of BC, the other side could get a meter more of snow than you get on this side. So let's say they average 2.5 to 3 meters, so 9 feet of snow on this side, could be 12 on the other side. However, because the glaciers create their own weather, it really is hard to give you an accurate number, but you want a huge snowfall. When storms come in, and again, most of our weather comes in off the Pacific Ocean, when it comes crashing over here, every now and then you have massive storms, which then, of course, dump snow. We have virtually no rain here. I have seen rain here in my life, but virtually never. But to the second part of your question, the whole Icefield Center here closes down totally in the winter. However, the road stays open. Now, the RCMP, the Canadian Mounties, have advocated for years for closing it, but those of us who work in tourism, people who like to backcountry ski, people who live in Jasper, all want it to stay open. Again, it's considered one of the 10 most beautiful drives in the world, and so I have driven up to here in the winter and camped right in this parking lot in my van. And then earlier, they start the tour down the glaciers about May 15th, and they go up to about October 15th. Although if you have a random storm, then of course that can change everything all of a sudden. But yes, the road is accessible. There's a sign just down the way where it says watch for unexploded shells. I put that once in the camper van group. That's because if there's a real risk of avalanche, they close the road and they bring in helicopters and they drop bombs out the window to release the snow. So they do keep it going. I see we're talking food, but up here, really, I will say the drive up here is one of the best drives in the world, but it's never a great culinary event to come up here. And the private concession that runs the food and everything up at the Icefield Center here is just terrible. So that's just a reality. And of course, this year, terribly understaffed. Yeah, Chloe, quite a few people do. In fact, technically, you'll see a whole bunch of RVs parked out there in the distance, and you can park overnight. I think you're meant to put $10 or something into a little drop box, and they do have access to toilets, just natural ones, but they do have access to toilets in the winter. Where are the trees? Well, you can see now. Obviously, there's very few trees close to the glacier because this was all under ice. There's Sunwapta Lake right down there. And now, have a look at that. That is the mountain up high. There are no trees up high. I'm already walking around. I don't know if you're in feet or meters, but I'm at about 1,700 meters, about 6,200 feet. But the trees, no, Brent, it's not that hard to find parking. This is the kind of visitor block. Now, kids are back at school. A couple of weeks ago, it was just a zoo. But the tree line is very low in the Canadian Rockies, and that's for several reasons. But because the glaciers have scoured the side of these mountains, they've drawn it down. And what I'm walking on here is just ground up mountains, and that's why the Rockies are so distinctly rocky. So we're looking at the west face of that mountain, and the east face is much steeper because all the Rockies are pointing from east to west, right? So, but indeed, and it's your question, I mean, keep in mind, in 1890, I would have been standing on ice right here. So gradually, as soil starts to develop, you'll have a look here and you'll see where all these trees are starting to grow up slowly. But it's a long, slow process. And then have a look up here, of course, and that's still ice. So there's a reason why there's not a great deal. Yes, Lorraine, that brave little tree. I'm not close enough to it today, but down over the bend. As I say, I decided to do the tour back here today because it's such a perfect blue sky day. I wanted to give everyone the big panoramic view. So, Ken, nice to see you, pal. You know what, Ken, I'm nearly at the very end already. Let me tell you a couple more things. Whilst I'm doing so, let's do one more of these gorgeous, gorgeous flower shots here. How's that for just, I can't quite see that well, but that is just so beautiful. We're just asking, Helen, in the winter. No, the glaciers are just for 4 months in the summer, the tours, yeah. Yeah, it's far too dangerous to go out and plow it in the wintertime or any of that. So I know the whole thing closes down, and of course they're having a tough year because it's so hard to get staff. Thanks, Chloe. But as we go north, we're 101 kilometers from here, up to J-Town, up to beautiful Jasper. So what I'll be doing is coming up. I did show you a corner of it one time when I was much closer to the toe of the glacier. But up around the bend, we go up over, we see the Stutfield Glacier on the other side, and then we see the endless chain on the right. That is thanks, Abe, the longest unbroken chain of mountains in the Canadian Rockies. And on the other side of those is Moline Lake. And I am taking my group up to Moline Lake tomorrow. I cannot wait because I haven't been up in a couple of years. They're going out on a boat tour to Spirit Island. I'm going to go out looking for moose. And if I can get a moose, I'll make a little YouTube video for everyone. Of course, I have no reception up at Moline, so I won't even try to consider a tour because I know that there's no reception up there. But I'll be sitting, having a sandwich or a cup of tea at 5,600 feet. Thanks, Margaret. So it'll be lovely to share that. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we've already blown through our time. It just raced by today. How's that for a view back here? I do always want to say peace and love to everyone. I don't have my moose covered. Thanks, Dad. Well, but moose are very dangerous. You don't want to mess with moose that much. We don't see so many moose, of course, in the Canadian Rockies, but the area around Moline Lake is one moose territory where we do often see them. They even walk along the edge of the lake sometimes, so it is a fun area. So, yeah. Well, we don't have, because moose live in Montaigne, which is the lake marshy areas. Well, Sandy, last time I was here, I was down at the toe of the ice, but that's actually a lot further than it looks. I can jog it in about 15 minutes if you if you want to run with me. But yeah, so our moose population is relatively small here. Oh, it's so much fun. I will be back a couple of times. So I'll finish this tour on the 8th of September in Vancouver. And then on the 12th in Vancouver, the 11th, I'm meeting an Irish group. Anu, thank you. Hey, Margot, last second. Margot's here from Boston. I'd love to see you there. There you go. There's the Columbia Icefields on a blue bird. You know, Lorraine, I love coming here and sharing this with everyone. I remember in our early days, thanks, Sandy, in our early days of Hago, you know, I kept taking all these sort of risks, and they asked me to try to go to places because everyone was doing tours in cities. But it's such an honor to come and show this to everyone. It's because Sandy was asking about the toe. So you park down below. Well, thank you, Patty, for your story. I'd love you to message me about when you had to get rescued. Well, that's great, Patty. You're very welcome here. So if I park down below and walk up over that hill, that's where you get to the toe. You can't get any closer to it. You see where the vehicles are out. So that's really the end of the glacier. So next time I'm here, every time I'm here, pretty much I put up a tour, of course, but of course it's different weather every time I'm here. The one truth is it's almost always windy because, of course, the glaciers create their own wind. Katabatic wind, although I don't feel like I'm really dealing with a katabatic wind today. I think I'm dealing with just a north wind coming down because it's not really coming straight off the glacier as it normally is. Some of you might remember I did one where I kind of gave an introduction and then I couldn't talk as I was walking around because the wind was just so howling crazy. But so there's Mount Athabasca up there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, thank you so much. I put up Jasper tomorrow morning, and I put up one more Jasper tour the next day, and sort of the evening, because I'm going to be out and about. I don't have a ton of time, but of course I can't miss the chance to show you Jasper. And then hopefully if the train's on time, I'll be in Kamloops, which will be great fun, and then down into Vancouver. So I'm going to be in Vancouver a lot this year, but the forecast is still really, really nice. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sandy. Well, Anu, do come. By next year or the year after, things might quiet down a bit here. We're just so crazy, busy, and understaffed and everything. But it's still the yeah, Lynn, I'm going to be on the train. I didn't realize it was on. I didn't realize the train was included on this tour when I had said yes to it. But at least I have my whole group together in one car. See, the wind keeps grabbing the camera here. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure. I know you don't feel sorry for me, but I feel sorry for me. Joe L feels sorry for me. She knows. Well, let me know. I should do a singing tour. No problem, Dave. I could do kind of a train but instead of saying I see that train a rolling, I'll say I'll see that train stuck with poor service. That'll be my song about the Rocky Mountain. That's another story for another day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just let you hear the wind. And a nice big raven. They stay all winter, these ravens here. There we are. Keep in touch, everyone. We'll see you soon. Lots of love.